So hello guys, welcome back to the channel. I wanted to give you a really quick, simple and easy tutorial all about exposure blending in today's video. This is so easy, yet it's a technique that can really give you a lot of freedom as a landscape photographer for when you're out on location and you're dealing with really high dynamic ranges. High dynamic range is basically when you're shooting a scene like we so often do as landscape photographers, where within that frame there's a hell of a lot of bright highlights but also a hell of a lot of dark shadows. So it's very, very difficult for your camera to deal with. Even expensive cameras struggle to deal with them sometimes. Think for example if you're shooting into the sun, it's really difficult for your camera to expose correctly for the sun and for all the foreground as well, without your histogram either clipping the shadows or clipping the highlights. So I wanted to show you today how I get around it, and honestly how easy it is doing this in Photoshop. So you'll see here I've got two photographs. This is just a little folder that I've created, and we're going to be working with one image today, one that I took in the Lake District not too long ago up on Helm Crag. And these two photographs are exactly the same composition. The only thing that's different is the exposure. I've increased the shutter speed to make one a little bit brighter. So you see this first photograph here, it's obviously very dark. However, if you look at the sky, it is exposed perfectly. The sky looks perfect, but yet obviously the foreground is way too dark. So I took this second shot, which is called foreground, which was exposed for the foreground. You'll hear me saying things like that out on location all the time. Exactly the same composition, exactly the same photograph, just a lot brighter. And you can see this one, it's almost a polar opposite. Yeah, it's the other way around. The foreground is exposed perfectly, it looks wonderful, but yet the sky is way too bright. So what we're trying to achieve here with exposure blending is we're going to pretty much literally stack the two photos on top of each other in Photoshop, and we're going to take the two best elements from each photograph and turn it all into one photograph. So we're going to have a perfectly exposed foreground along with a perfectly exposed background. All our job is to turn them two photographs into one photograph, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. It is well easy, trust me. So first things first, open up Photoshop, and then we're going to click on File, go down to Script, and then we want to load files into stack. Like I said, we're almost physically going to stack these two photographs on top of each other. So you've got the load layers dialog box up here, and then we're literally just going to find those two photographs. So there they are, it's come up straight away. Make sure you click on them both. You can hold down Shift to select both of the photographs at once and open them both into this dialog box. Now we need to make sure we click this little tick box down here, attempt to automatically align source images, and then we click on OK. It's important to tick that checkbox because even though I might think the composition is exactly the same because I called it out on location, chances are when I press the shutter I might have moved the camera ever so slightly. We're talking like millimeters. But what Photoshop does when you click that tick box is it aligns it all perfectly. It works on contrasts, and it's a really, really awesome automated feature. So now you see here, I'm going to put the foreground one on the top. We've got those two photographs. Think about it physically, right? If you physically printed both of these photographs out, right, and you had this photograph that you can see now, you had that at the bottom, and then you put the darker photograph on the top, all right, and then you ripped away the foreground of the darker photograph to reveal this one, the perfectly exposed photograph, which then would give you beautifully exposed foreground and a beautifully exposed sky or background. That's all we're doing here, guys. Honestly, it's that easy. So here we go. We need to add a new layer mask here. See that comes up there, so make sure you've got that one selected, and then all we're doing is using this tool here, the gradient tool. So if you're watching this now, all you can do is pause the video and follow these steps for two of your photographs as well. Honestly, it's so easy. And then all we're doing now is going into here, and this can be a little bit tricky. It's trial and error basically, even for me now after I've done it hundreds of times. And all you've got to do is drag down, and what that is going to do is reveal that darker sky. It's basically revealing the photograph that's underneath this one that's exposed for the foreground. So for me there, I don't think I've come down far enough, so I'll press Command and Z on a Mac to undo my previous action, and I'll just keep doing it. I might do it there and I'll say I've come down too far, these mountains over here are too dark, it's revealed a little bit too much, so I'll try again. I might try that. I haven't come down far enough. So you get the gist. Just keep going until you think it's right. And I'd say that they're pretty much perfect. And that's it. That's done. Honestly, it's that easy. Exposure blending is something that people tend to really overcomplicate. But if you've got Photoshop, follow these simple steps. Honestly, it's so easy. Exposure blending is so easy. Now I'm going to select both of these layers here. I'm going to right click and I'm going to click on merge layers, which is basically the last piece of the puzzle. That's turning it all into one photograph. Now the only thing that I want to change here is you can see we've got these really small sort of lines around the edge of the photograph, and that's basically where Photoshop attempted to align the two photographs, which it did perfectly. However, it meant that I moved my camera ever so slightly when I was out on location taking these two separate exposures. All you need to do there is crop in. It really is that simple. You can do it in Photoshop or Lightroom, whenever you want. So something like that, as much or as little as you want, just to get rid of that white line, and that's that done. And there it is. That's our completed photograph. Exposure blend completed. Honestly, so easy. So then what I would do now is export this photograph, probably just to my desktop. Then I would import it into Lightroom, and then I would start my edit. Easy as that. So I really hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial. Please comment below if there's anything else you'd like me to cover, and give the video a like if you have a quick second. It always really does help out my content on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Out.